Hey everyone, I just wanted to read Ruth chapter 2, verse 3. It says, "And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech." So basically, here's some backstory. Naomi and Ruth, they journey back to Naomi's hometown of Bethlehem, they they have nothing. They don't have anyone with them. All of their husbands died. The only person that they knew, Orpah, she goes back to her family. So they're completely by themselves. They don't have any income. They don't have any jobs, no home, nothing to their name. And so they just come to Bethlehem hoping to start a new life somehow. And the thing here that I wanted to draw your attention to is that in this verse it says, "And she went," which is Ruth, "she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her hap was to light." And so in other translations, it says it just so happened to be, or that's the translation, is that it just so happened to be that she landed on a part of the field, or she was gleaning on a part of the field that belonged unto Boaz, who was the kindred of Elimelech. So he was part of Naomi's family once removed, or something like that. So he was from the same family. So see how, we see so many instances of this, but the moment you're obedient to the Lord, that so many coincidences happen. It just so happened to be that she was gleaning in the fields of Boaz. She was just going about her work. She was just, doing she just was doing what needed to be done because her and Naomi had no food. So she was going out to grab food and glean from the fields, but she just so happened to light in the field of Boaz. And, as you read later on in the story, he becomes their kinsman redeemer and she ends up marrying Boaz. But we see the same thing in the book of Joseph, in the story of Joseph as well. With Joseph, he just so happened to be in jail at the same time as the king's cupbearer and baker. I mean, he could have been in jail with anyone. He could have been in jail with, actual criminals who weren't, who had no connections like that, or who didn't have any employment history like that. But he just so happened to be in the same, jail at the same time as these two people. And they just so happened to have a dream, and he just so happened to be able to interpret those dreams. And then again, it just so happened to be that once the cupbearer gets restored back to his position, and then 2 years later, his the pharaoh gets a dream, just so happened to get a dream, then the cupbearer just so happens to remember that Joseph is an interpreter of dreams. So it just seems that there's so many of these coincidences that keep happening. And it just so happened to be that all of these things happen. Even in the story of Moses, when his mother puts him in the basket and sends him to save him in a basket, and sends him down the river Nile, I think it is. Guess who just so happened to open that basket? It was the Pharaoh's daughter, and so Moses was saved. So we see so many instances of this where when someone acts in obedience, plain and simple, blind obedience to the Lord and blind faith to the Lord, it just so happens to be that all of these coincidences happen that lead to major shifts in their life. It leads to major advances or progressions in their life, and these become the very connections that change their whole family or their whole lineage for generations to come, just through these mere coincidences. So what my point here is that, so long as you're in obedience with the Lord and you're just faithfully doing whatever he's called you to do, as hard as that may be sometimes, but the Bible says that the my commandments are not burdensome for those who love me or believe in me, something along those lines. But it says that my commandments are not burdensome for those who really want to follow it. So, yes, I really encourage you to just be obedient in whatever absurd, insane, painful, ridiculous, whatever thing that God has called you to do. How no matter how much it seems, how many times it seems like you've been doing it, or how many years, or whatever it is, you might think that, oh, why am I doing this? But so long as you're faithfully following the Lord, faithfully obeying Him, there would just so happen to be coincidences that elevate you, that bless you, that lead to, new changes or new locations or whatever it is in your life. So I really hope that encourages you to stay focused and stay obedient on whatever path the Lord has, and to wait for these coincidences that the Lord wants to bless you with. He really wants to orchestrate those moments in your life. So stay blessed, everyone.